Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something pretty sophisticated and honestly a bit unsettling. It's this major shift in the information landscape that happened in 2025. We've been going deep into source material from fact checkers, from analysts, and we're mainly focusing on the situation in the Philippines, which, is often seen as this kind of global test kitchen for digital warfare.
And that geographic context is just so crucial. Our mission here is really to analyze how the disinformation machine, mutated during a really high-stakes election year. We aren't just looking at fake news anymore. We're looking at something the analysis calls engineered reality.
The sources we looked at emphasize this really chilling transformation. What was once, dismissed as just crude propaganda has metastasized, that's the word they use, into a sophisticated tech-driven warfare that targets the very fabric of our collective consciousness.
It's not about simple lies anymore.
No, it's about systematically hijacking entire belief systems.
Right. And the scale of this effort it's immediate and it's startling. We know this because Rappler, which is a major independent news organization there, had its fact-check unit in the trenches all year.
And the numbers they came back with are just staggering.
They are. They published an incredible 545 fact checks in 2025 alone. And that's dismantling literally thousands of individual false claims.
So just to put that into context for you, that means across the whole year, this one unit was debunking false claims almost twice a day, every single day.
It's relentless.
Completely relentless.
It is. But, the truly alarming takeaway, maybe even more than the sheer volume, is the evolving power to persuade. The danger isn't just how many people saw these things, it's how convincing and, deeply internalized those lies became. That's a different problem.
Okay, so let's unpack that shift then. We need to understand the mechanism. The source material details this crucial evolution away from what we used to think of as the threat, which was centered on troll-driven fake news, right? These big centralized farms of paid actors.
That model is pretty much outdated now.
So if that's outdated, what replaced it?
What replaced it is, frankly, far more complex and dangerous. The analysis shows we're now battling a, quote, vast organic network of real people swarming to spread lies they genuinely believe to be true.
So wait, instead of fighting a handful of cynical professionals,
right,
fact checkers are now up against millions of everyday citizens, people who genuinely think they're spreading the truth.
Or maybe a better version of the truth in their minds. It makes it almost impossible to counter with just simple debunking. When people believe the lie is part of their identity or, it serves some higher emotional purpose.
Like supporting a political hero.
Exactly. They become highly resistant to any factual correction. The sources describe it as moving the fight from external propaganda to internal belief systems.
And that high-stakes election year was the perfect accelerant for all of this.
Yeah.
One of the things that really stood out to me was how this disinformation, it didn't just stay on the screen, it took physical form.
Yes, it migrates. That's the perfect word for it. It moves from the digital world into offline spaces. We're talking neighborhood discussions, family gatherings, local town halls.
So you could have a neighbor arguing passionately for a conspiracy theory they saw on some random social media page.
Yeah.
And they're willing to vote based on that belief.
That's it. And that fundamentally challenges the entire democratic process. And we can see just how compelling these claims were by looking at the engagement numbers. These falsehoods, they just exploded. Hundreds of thousands of engagements, multi-million views. It was huge.
Let's get into the specifics of that political data then, because this is where the sophistication of narrative engineering really, really shines through.
Okay, so if we break down the focus based on those 545 fact checks, a clear picture emerges. The Duterte family, so the former president and the current vice president, accounted for the largest single share. We're talking 155 fact checks in total. So that's 109 for the former president, 38 for the VP, and then a few more for the wider family. But crucially, this one focus accounted for 28.44% of all false claims debunked, all year.
Wow. So nearly a third of all the energy spent debunking falsehoods was focused on narratives around one single family. That shows an incredible centralization of effort.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, for context, President Marcos Jr. also accounted for a significant portion. He was the subject of about 11.93% of the debunked claims. So that duality really shows you where the main political conflict was being fought online.
But this is where the narrative engineering gets fascinating, especially around former President Duterte after that really significant legal event, his March 11 arrest. What was the immediate response? What was it designed to do?
The response was instant, it was overwhelming, and it was tactical. There was an immediate surge of false information designed to create sympathy and outrage. The main narrative focused on his health, painting him as this frail, elderly man, physically incapable of withstanding a trial or confinement by the International Criminal Court, the ICC.
So they weaponized empathy. It shifts the debate from the legality of the arrest to the supposed cruelty of it.
Precisely. And that was just the start. That initial health focus was followed by a relentless wave of other claims. Claims challenging ICC jurisdiction, alleging he'd been given an interim release, and even completely fabricated reports of his death likely to gauge public reaction and just amplify that outrage.
And the sources highlight this wasn't just organic. It was coordinated and, more importantly, monetized.
It absolutely was. The analysis details how supporter networks used paid ads across social media to push these narratives. The sources actually track the costs in Philippine pesos, and they were all over the place, from, pocket change amounts under 100 pesos to as much as almost 9,000.
So we're not just talking about huge campaign spending. This is potentially thousands of individuals chipping in money.
Yes, and that decentralized spending had a huge collective impact. The combined efforts were designed to target an estimated audience of at least 1 million people.
1 million people minimum. And the goal?
The goal was clinical. It was to use these small-scale, emotionally charged campaigns to systematically transform Duterte's image. From a legal suspect facing serious charges into a political victim deserving of public sympathy.
That's a really effective strategy. So how does that contrast with the claims against President Marcos Jr.? The analysis said his fact checks focused on less advantageous claims. What does that mean?
It suggests a less cohesive strategy, maybe a less successful one. The claims about Marcos Jr. were more about rumors of coups, impeachment plots, anti-government rallies. They were designed to destabilize, for sure, but they lack that deeply personal, emotionally resonant narrative of victimhood that was so effective on the other side.
More institutional threats, not personal sympathy.
Exactly. But the underlying trend that ties all this together from 2025 is this shift toward entertainment.
Right. The source mentioned these bizarre claims, like deepfakes of massive Duterte statues being built, which were totally ridiculous but got massive popularity.
Yes. And that reflects the key trend here. The creators of these lies prioritized emotional appeal and entertainment value over any kind of factual accuracy. If the lie is outrageous or funny or powerfully tragic, it gets shared. It's competing with viral videos now, not with the news.
That preference for the entertaining lie is the perfect bridge to our next section, because the technology driving this stuff has very real, very dangerous consequences for ordinary people. Let's shift away from politics for a moment and look at the direct dangers, where AI is acting as this devastating booster for fraud and health scams.
Absolutely. The sources show deepfakes have become a primary tool for this. This technology alone accounted for 6.61% of all fact checks this year. And that's alarming because they're overwhelmingly deployed to advertise so-called miracle cures for chronic diseases.
And these are highly convincing, I take it, not just some poorly edited video.
Not at all. We are talking about seamless synthetic voices, manipulated video. It creates this false but incredibly professional sense of medical endorsement. They'll make it look like a credible doctor or a famous celebrity is personally vouching for a product that promises to cure cancer or diabetes.
And the platform problem makes this so much more dangerous. We're not talking about some obscure forums, are we?
No, the sources point to platforms like TikTok as primary hubs for this, specifically because of their integrated e-commerce features. And this is where we need to talk about the jargon, the yellow baskets.
Okay, so for anyone listening who might not use TikTok for shopping, what exactly is a yellow basket?
It's basically TikTok's built-in checkout button. So a deepfake video promoting a fake cancer cure appears on your feed, and right below it, there's the yellow basket. It lets you buy the unvalidated product immediately, right there in the app.
It removes that moment of hesitation of thinking about it?
It does. The convenience removes that cognitive step of, researching the product or questioning if it's real.
So that moment of emotional vulnerability is instantly translated into a financial transaction.
Exactly. And the source material stresses that these products, they're not approved by the Food and Drug Administration. This poses severe health risks. People might consume toxic substances, or just as dangerous, they might stop taking their actual medication because they believe this deepfake cure will work. The danger is physical.
And speaking of risk, The analysis also documented this persistent financial exploitation.
Yes, 5.32% of fact checks were about financial exploitation. This includes really distressing things like fake announcements of relief aid during a disaster or fraudulent school suspensions. They're designed to grab people's attention when they are most vulnerable and stressed.
And the end goal of those posts.
The posts contain links that lead directly to sophisticated phishing sites. These sites look like legitimate government portals or charity pages, but they're just there to steal your personal information. Bank details, ID numbers, passwords. It's all about exploitation for profit.
Okay, now we have to address the context of this, which is big tech retreating. The sources rightly call it a global alarm. We're talking about Meta's 2025 announcement to end third-party fact-checking in the United States.
And this is a signal, a really dangerous one. Now, Meta said it has no immediate plans to remove fact-checkers in the Philippines, but the move itself signals a dangerous retreat by big tech.
And why is that decision so critical for a country with such high digital engagement like the Philippines?
Because the vulnerability there is extreme. You have a place with very high social media penetration, and it meets a high susceptibility to synthetic reality. We've seen that with the viral deepfakes and the fake cures. So this retreat threatens to leave the most vulnerable citizens completely exposed. If the platforms step back, the machinery of deceit has an even clearer path.
So when we look at the whole scope of 2025, what does this all mean? The sources, they ultimately identify that the essential safeguards aren't technological fixes, they're human ones. Independent journalism, a vigilant community, a united front of fact defenders.
It's a call to arms for collective vigilance, because the threat has fundamentally changed. It's not just external anymore, it's become integrated into how people think.
So to summarize the core takeaway from this deep dive then, the threat has moved beyond crude propaganda to these localized, internalized belief systems. And they're being amplified by campaigns that are coordinated, monetized, and driven by accessible, convincing AI technology.
And that combination of monetization and emotional appeal is really the defining feature of this new era. The machinery actively prioritized entertainment over accuracy. And given that these bizarre deepfakes of statues and miracle cures resonated so strongly with millions, it raises an important question for you to think about. Does the vulnerability of our collective reality stem more from a lack of vigilance or from a collective fundamental preference for the entertaining lie over the complex truth? What is the true cost when political discourse consistently chooses raw emotion over evidence?